It's feedback time. Welcome. Welcome to another Friday. Let's do some feedback today. You were close. You were close. You were close. Still not fully rid of the cold. Absolutely horrible to this time, but it's slowly getting better. So if I still sound a little strange, that's why. It's just I don't know what kind of cold that I've gotten, but it's like it's what, like 2.5 weeks or something now. Absolutely crazy. But we're okay. We're doing good. So let's see. Do we have any more tracks yet? No, we don't. Okay, cool. It's been going around though. Like at my work, there's been like 6 people in the last 2 weeks that called in sick. Then were like, yeah, I can't come to work. And I heard in the Discord a couple of people. Heard some of my friends as well. They were like, yeah, I've been going through a similar thing. So it's really been going around lately. And it's not even cold yet. That's the thing. It's like, what? It's actually unusually hot for the time of the year. We did have like a couple of days of cold, and it was like wet cold, you know, like rainy and just really cold. I got drenched like 3 times in 1 week, in like close to freezing temperatures. So that's probably why. That's probably why I got hit with it. But then it started getting like what? It's like 10 degrees or something, which is kind of hot for the time of the year. Are any remixes allowed if there are only vocals left from the original track? Well, no, preferably not, because vocals is usually a thing that will give issues. And even if like Shazam doesn't catch it, that doesn't mean that YouTube system doesn't. So no, anything with vocals, not. Definitely not. Yeah, that's the same thing with me, Angelite. Like, I'm basically good. Like, I feel completely fine. Except every once in a while, I'll get one of those coughing attacks, exactly like that. Especially when I wake up in the morning, it's like absolutely horrible. But other than that, it's fine. But I'll wake up in the morning and I'll take a shower and I'll just be like, holy shit, fuck me. So I'm glad when it's over. I'm counting down days though right now because in like what, 2 weeks, I believe, I'm gonna have a whole month off of work. So I'm gonna be chilling, which is gonna be nice. Finally, time to do some stuff. No work with Christmas, no work with New Year's. I planned it good this year. Cool. So we have a couple of tracks right now. We might get some more tracks coming in later. I'll check the Discord every once in a while. If you do want to submit some tracks, go to the Discord. Nicely calculated vacation. Yes, exactly. Like, I had like too many fucking vacation days left. I hadn't taken any vacation this year, so I had like my whole 16 days still left, and You know, when I work, I save up like hours, paid leave hours, basically, and I had like 100 of those as well. So I was like, dude, just I need to get rid of some of that, you know. So I went to my boss and I said like, yeah, so preferably I would like to have a whole month. And he was like, yeah, they're not gonna allow that. That's a little bit much. Um, so just do like what, like try 3 weeks. And I was like, ah, damn it, I want 4 weeks, you know. So I look at my schedule, and I can see that they've already filled in the schedule for like the coming what 2 months or something. And I'm like, if I plan this correctly, and I do this, and I plan in 3 weeks, but plan it in like a bit of a smart way, I'm still gonna be left with 4 weeks in total because of how my schedule is. So I said like fuck it, I'll just give it a shot, and I follow in 4 or 3 weeks, and do it in such a way that like my schedule just kind of overlaps in a nice way, right? And like a couple of days later, I just get, yeah, it's been accepted. You're good, and I'm like, nice. I love it when a plan comes together, you know. So now I'll still have 4 weeks. I'll basically my last day of work is gonna be the 24th of December, and then I'm gonna have to work again on like what, the 29th of January. So it's like nice. Plan worked. But now I still have like a shit ton of hours left, so um, maybe I'm gonna have to do like a little thing where I'll come to work for like a month, and then I'll try try the same trick again. Like, how else am I gonna get rid of those hours? You know, they're not gonna pay them out like that. You know, that's some shitty thing that they won't do. Like, preferably, I would just, be like, yo, just pay me all those fucking hours, you know? Just pay them out. But they're not gonna do that. So I'm gonna have to, like, get a paid leave. But hey, like, hey, I got the hours, so what are they gonna do, you know? I'm gonna have to see what I'm gonna do. Maybe start of next year, I'm gonna be able to have another extra couple of weeks. Unless they're now going to be going to be annoyed that my plan worked. Do you like metal, by the way? I mean, I do. I don't listen to it a lot, but I do. Cool. So let's just get started, and we'll see how many tracks we're gonna have today. If you hear any bangs, you know what time it is of the year. It's gonna be fireworks time. I already hear some every now and then, so the mic might pick that up if they're close to my house. Um, it's gonna be crazy this year. I already feel it. It's the last year that people can fire fireworks. So next year, consumer fireworks are gonna be banned in this country. So I have a suspicion that people are going to go absolutely nuts the closer we get to New Year's. I'm not in Germany, no. I'm in the Netherlands. You can tell by my appearance. I mean, usually when people look at me, they're like, "Ah, yeah, he's a skater for sure." That's usually what I'll get. But maybe that also is because I usually wear some skater shoes and like some skate brands and shit like that, so makes it kind of easy, you know. But I usually get that. Either that, or like if it's somebody from like the graffiti scene, they're like, dude, you must be a graffiti writer, and I'm like, I used to be. Germany fireworks are crazy. Yeah, I can imagine. Like a lot of people that you know don't like the because consumer fireworks out here they're kind of tame. If we're gonna put a name on it, you know, like they're not that fucking loud or crazy. Um, they're expensive though. Like holy shit! Like at my work, that's also why I wanted to have free from work this year. They sell fireworks at the end of the year, and we have like this whole bunker in the warehouse, and they store all the fireworks in there. And then at the end of the last couple of days of the year, people can come to buy fireworks. And I already saw it coming with the coming ban on consumer fireworks. I was like, I don't think I want to be there this year. You know, it's gonna be absolute chaos, and I don't look forward to that at all. So I was like, let me just try and get my vacation. So I mean, gladly that worked out. But yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely crazy this year just because the fact that it's the last time people can actually legally buy fireworks. I don't really expect next year to be any different though. Like sure people cannot buy it anymore, but the Netherlands is such a tiny country that it's like almost from any place in the country, it's like maximum 2 hours of driving away to like either Belgium or Germany, and there you can one buy fireworks legally, and two, the fireworks that you can buy there are much heavier than the ones that are allowed here. So, is it gonna do anything? I don't think it will, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't really care much for it, honestly. Like when I was younger, I did, but nowadays I don't really care for it. It's like whatever. Like when I see the prices, like back when I was when I was a little kid, I used to buy fireworks, but they were kind of affordable, you know, it wasn't too crazy. Nowadays, I was looking at the prices at my store, and I was looking at the prices. I was looking at like the what is that? What is it called? Like a little advertisement thing, and there was this one thing. It was like, yo, this is like a piece of fireworks. It lasts 60 seconds, and it literally costed 700 euros. And I was like, what the fuck, mate? Are you absolutely nuts? Let me just let me just shoot up 700 euros worth of money in like 60 seconds. Fuck no. I'm not gonna do that. It's a bit pricey, don't you think? But yeah, like I said, people will still get it. Yeah, exactly. That's also why people go abroad because they can just get like shit that is much more cheaper and is heavier. So, and it's not like the police has any time to go check all the border crossings, you know? And even if they do, you know, they'll do that the last couple of months of the year, but then instead people will go to Belgium or Germany in like the summer, you know, and stock up. So, eh, I don't really think it's gonna help anything. In fact, it probably will only lead to more illegal fireworks and make the make the damages every because that's the main reason why, right? They're kind of banning it because there's an increase of like damages every year. You know, people blowing shit up. Um, and then there's of course like the that's one thing I do kind of think is kind of fucked up, you know, like especially the last I would say maybe 5 years. There's been a massive increase in like people throwing fireworks at like firemen or like ambulance workers or like even the police as well. And it's like, you know, if something catches fire or I don't know, somebody gets hurt and, you know, they have to respond to that, then how fucked is it if you're gonna throw fireworks at those people? Like, that's something I think is just absolutely stupid. Um, but yeah, that happens, and it tends to happen more recently in the last couple of years. So that's one of the reasons why they're really cracking down on it now. But yeah, it's probably just a combination of people getting drunk and then just being stupid, you know. Imagine fireworks trafficking, dude. It's literally like that. It's literally like that. You'll hear like stories on the news of like the police catching like a whole van coming across the border, and the entire van is just filled with fireworks. It's literally that. It's literally fireworks trafficking. And that's only gonna get worse, I assume. But yeah, it's just stupid. Like. But I guess we'll see. I guess the one argument you can make is that when consumer fireworks are banned, then anything that goes off is illegal, making it maybe a little bit easier to control. But then still, like, if the police has no time to check up on it, then what is that gonna do, right? And with countries surrounding us that just allow it, you know, and then especially if you go like to something like Poland or something where there's like you can get like the fucking explosives, you know, that's not even fireworks anymore. That's like literally dynamite. And even that, like Poland is what, like it's not even that far away. I don't know exactly how far that would be, but how far would it be to drive from Rotterdam to Poland? Rotterdam, and we're gonna drive to Warsaw. 69 hours. Oh wait, that's I'm like, what? 69 hours? No, it's set to bicycle. let me ride my bike to Poland. with fireworks. 12 hours. Like that's what I mean, 12 and a half hours. So like make it a little day trip. Cool. So first one up, we got string net. Don't tell me. 174. What the fuck is it? Poland Buller? Buller? What's that? Imagine towing a bicycle trailer. Yeah, exactly. Like honestly, like a bike trip that far isn't even that crazy. Like there's a ton of people that do that in the summer. They'll do like a bike trip around Europe, but yeah, I can already see me just cycling across the border with like a trailer behind my bike, completely filled to the brim with fireworks. In a way, that might even be safer than going by car. If I think about it, there's probably some bicycle paths, you know, crossing the border that's gonna be way safer to do than with a car. Like with the car, they're just, you know, they're just gonna put up some checkup post at the border, and it's gonna be really difficult to get around those. Well, still, it's gonna be doable if you go through like some small village and just don't go across the highways or something. But with a bike, it might actually be really safe. I can imagine they will block off all the little bike paths and bike trails and all of that stuff. So who knows? In a couple of years, we're gonna see we're gonna see bicycle firework traffickers. Would be pretty applicable for the Dutch, you know. I mean, being such a bike heavy country. Anyways, let's get started for real. Let's see what we got here. Do we have? Yeah, it's soloed. Oh, what? Why don't we hear anything? Because the tape stop is still on. Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me also get rid of that track. This one. What a start. Almost sounds like a proper intro song for the stream. It's actually kind of interesting. Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting. Not something I would normally, generally... Wait, let me... One moment, let me fix this. Let's just put everything right here. Gonna make it a little bit easier. Not something I would normally listen to, in terms of like... I guess it's drum and bass, but there's like some real instrument kind of vibes going on in it as well. I kind of like it. The one thing I felt like you have these extra 2 bars here of the intro. I felt like this part of the intro felt like it dragged out a little bit too long. Like let's see, we have, especially because there isn't much changing in between here. Like, I would probably, right here, start sort of like preparing for the switch, and just maybe have like a bit of a riser underneath here or some kind of thing that builds a little bit of tension, and then just, I guess, just take that out and go into this. Like, I get that it's not like this is probably 16 bars. Yeah, and then you have like 8 bars here, and then here it drops. So, I get that it's maybe you did it because you wanted to keep the 16 bar thing going, but honestly, I think it's gonna be fine if you do that. It doesn't really matter too much. You could even maybe, if you want to keep the whole sort of like vibe with 16 bars going, you could make this first section 8 bars, so you could do something like that. Now obviously it starts a little bit weird because there's a little pause at the start of the whole file, I assume. Yeah. So if we do that, and then we just chuck this at the start, you could maybe go, let's see. See if that works, and then you could take out maybe that, chuck that here, and then you would still have exactly 32 bars right here, or not. Wait, up until here you have 32 bars, and then it goes into here, and should probably still work. And it feels a little bit like it doesn't drag on as much, you know? See, that would already work pretty well. Like, I think it probably wants to go here because you could hear that the reverse crash came in a little bit weird. But this is probably long enough for this section. And then here I would add something in the background, just something to kind of fill it up a little bit more, because especially with such an energetic sort of like hit here, I would maybe try and either do like some filtered drums or something else in the background. Could be some weird sound effect thingy, or like just something to fill up these areas in between a little bit. I even think that this might feel like it drags a little bit too much. I would maybe even just say it doesn't really matter if it's not exactly like 16 bars, 16 bars. You can do 16 bars and then 8 bars. Doesn't really matter. Like, I would almost maybe even do it like that. So you have this 2 times. Yeah, marching snare could work. Something interesting like that. I have some loops. I'm not sure if it'll work. Maybe a bit much for this, but we can always check. See what happens. I mean, kind of works. Kind of works, in a way. But see, like something there to kind of fill it up a bit would definitely work to make that section feel a little bit more, I don't know, just better. And then you could maybe even, like, if you go with like this intro, you could maybe even have this section be twice as long. So, what is that? Shift E? How do you make a cut again? There we go. You could even make that section twice as long and have like something underneath here building up, like a riser or something like that. And then go into this. And I would probably do a little... There is a bit of a fill, but I would probably get rid of some of the other elements here, like maybe the kick and like the bassier elements, and just take those out on either like the last beat or maybe the last couple of beats when the drum fill is happening, so that this one comes in even more, well, even it'll feel more polished if you do that. It'll just give it like a nicer transition. Like, it works now. You could even... You have that sort of like what? It's like a guitar kind of hit right here. You could even take everything else out and just have that guitar hit on the last beat. And then go into this. That would probably work pretty well. Could maybe have a little bit more sub as well, actually. Obviously it's gonna clip when I do this because I'm EQing the whole kind of thing, but maybe a little bit more sub could be nice. This section is fine, actually. This section I wouldn't add too much sub, but like in the drop section. For the rest, I think the mix is actually pretty fine. Oh yeah, one thing we also have to check, of course, is what do we get in mono? Because I can see there's a bit of width. It's probably going to be fine in mono, honestly. Okay, that is something interesting. Do you hear how the guitar almost disappears in mono? Well, it kind of basically disappears completely in mono. So if you want this to be played in like a club or something, that is something to be aware of, because in a club that will also happen. So it could be an issue, you know? Like if it's not intended to be played live or anything, then you're probably fine. But if this would be played live, then that same thing that you just heard would also happen. So you basically, when in a live setting, it's most of the time going to be played back in mono because of how live systems work, and you would basically lose the guitar. So maybe decrease the... I don't know what you did on it, but maybe decrease that width a little bit. It still fits though, yeah, exactly. It's nice. I like this tune. It's given me a bit of like it could also kind of sort of like work underneath the video game, which is kind of nice. Like epic boss fight kind of style, you know. Cool. Let's see what else we have. Mark Taylor with Atmosphere. Don't know the key or the tempo, so we're gonna have to eyeball this. Kinda looks like it might be 175-ish. I think it's 175 from the looks of it. With this name, by the way, Atmosphere, I kinda have to plug. I posted the Atmosphere sample pack on Patreon today. So there's now 35 Atmosphere samples on Patreon, and you can go and grab those if you are on the Patreon. So they're all like a bit like drum and bassy kind of style atmospheric samples. And there's like a bunch of different ones in different keys. Most of them minor keys, but there's also a couple of major ones. So you can go and check those out on the Patreon. Where do we send the track? On Discord. I'll put the link to the Discord in the chat. There's a channel called Livestream Feedback. And if you want to check out the Patreon, that is the link to that. So with a name called Atmosphere, and me dropping an Atmosphere pack, I mean, I have to kind of plug it, you know? Let's see what we got here. And that was a bit of a strange change there. Not bad, but like I recognize that vocal from somewhere. I don't know where. Yeah, just a good little stepper. The vocals from Splice. Okay, maybe I've heard it somewhere. I don't know. It kind of reminded me of something. I don't know what though, but yeah, like I like this one. It's just there's this one area here. Where was it? Was it here? I felt like a little bit weird how that changed. I think it was there.
I dream. I dream of.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think this section necessarily works or needs to be there. You could even have a shorter breakdown maybe. I do like. Huh. The one thing I would maybe try is that intro pad felt a little bit resonant when I first heard it. Like it feels a little bit loud compared to the intro drums. Like it is a really resonant sound, of course, so of course that's gonna happen, but
I dream about things way beyond this atmosphere.
or maybe automate it in with a little bit of a volume change over time, something like that. Infernal Media, no, you can send a track. We're still just getting started. We're on the second track, so you can send in stuff still. No, I think drop is fine.
I dream about things way beyond.
The only sound there was a re somewhere. Was here? Yeah. I wish that Reese was a little bit more, maybe a little bit more distorted, like had a little bit more mid-range and sort of like grit to it. Now it feels a little bit, it's fine the way it is, but I wish it was a little bit more grittier and just a bit more distorted and upfront than it is now. Especially because these other sounds, the mid-range of that, like that one, you know, that foghorn kind of sound. That has a lot of mid-range, right? It's really up front, and then the Reese feels a little bit more in the background. So like maybe distorting the mids of that a little bit more to bring it more up front would be nice. I like that little area where you cut everything out.
Way beyond.
Now we're gonna have to do a mono check again, because this is definitely some music that you would be able to hear on the dance floor. So we're gonna have to see.
But for now, I'm here.
Yeah, that sounds alright. Only thing, of course, that really mid-rangey sound, that does tend to lose a little bit of loudness, but that's understandable. Like that sound. That does. It loses a bit of its character in mono, but it's kind of also kind of the sound, you know, that most of those sounds will have some width to it, so.
I'm here.
Yeah, I think the scoop mids is fine. Like, that's something you would, most of the time, you would do on, like, Reese's anyway. At least to my, like, when I use a Reese, I would usually cut some mids as well, because that just tends to sound nicer. But you can then distort it again afterwards, if you get what I mean. To make it gritty, you'll still have that same character because you've taken out some mids first, and then you distort it again afterwards, and then the distortion reacts to the sound with less mids, but then creates more mid-range again because of the distortion, right? So, and it would bring it a bit more up front and a bit more in line with the other sounds.
But for now, I'm here. I dream about things.
Yeah, and then we have the breakdown. Let's see. Would it work if we just do this? I think it will, honestly.
I dream. I dream.
What is in front of here? Maybe we'll do that.
I dream. I'm here.
So, especially with tracks like this, like more minimal drum and bass and like these steppy kind of things, especially nowadays, breakdowns are usually pretty short, I feel. Like sometimes you'll have like a longer one, but then usually there's something interesting happening within the breakdown that sort of like separates it from the rest of the track. If not, then usually the breakdown is pretty short and it just goes pretty quickly into the second drop, which I guess would work here. Or I would, you know, change this section a little bit because I don't feel like it works how the drums came in here.
Dream.
You have like the drums already here. And then you cut them out, and then you bring them in again, and you cut them out again. See what I mean? Like that's what threw me off a little bit. Like this section feels like we're preparing for something, and then that sound comes in, that filtered version of the bass, and then it feels almost like the breakdown is starting over again, which to me didn't really make a lot of sense. Yeah, maybe even just take this entire section and move it here, and then go straight into the second drop. Like, just do it like that.
I dream about things way beyond this atmosphere. But for now, I'm here.
Yeah, that would probably work much better and feel like it will flow better because of it.
Dream about things way beyond.
Yeah, and then I guess I would like to hear a little bit of an outro. I know that outros these days are kind of overlooked. You know, people usually outros are like the DJ doesn't play it. By the time the track gets to an outro, somebody on social media will have already skipped to the next track. So, you know, outros are kind of, how do you say that? Out of style, I guess, these days. But I prefer if a track has a little bit of an outro, as opposed to just going straight from the drop and then the track ending, like we have here. Especially because there is the drum fill in front of it as well, and it really sort of like feels like there's something coming, and then it just ends, right? So that's like, I would usually just like it if there was something happening here still in terms of an outro, or take the drum fill out, and let it sort of like do its thing in terms of the drop, like what you already have. Maybe start filtering it a bit towards the outro, and that way you can prepare people for like, oh, the track is ending. But that's just my own personal preference, honestly. Cool. Next one. Hakari. Is this one? It's just really short. It's an unfinished demo. Okay, cool. Do we have in the Discord? See? Fuck is that? Let me check. That one. And then what is this? JR. You sending me feedback on a YouTube channel? What? This is about feedback on tracks. People can submit their tracks. Any feedback on this channel / concept? I'm not sure if that is the right stream for me to do that. I'm sorry. Let's see, Nisco. Let's grab that. And we have Angel Lyborn. Let me check that one as well. Download turn on. Good. Okay, let me chuck those in here as well. We should have this one. Then we have this one. And then this one. Let me make sure I like them in the Discord, otherwise I'll forget where we are. Yeah, it's one of those demos you never finish and it's kind of collecting dust. I feel you, man. I feel you. Got too many of those. I'm gonna hopefully have plenty of time when I have the month free of work to just work on music and get some stuff closer to being finished, or at least work a bit on the things that I've been doing. Because I've just had so little time lately. It's just been work, 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 and that's basically it. And then when I come home from work, all I want to do is just, hop on some game and just not do anything else, It's just like, fuck me, I'm tired. I just want to chill out. And then before I know it, it's Friday and we have a stream. And then before I know it, the weekend is over and I have to work again, And that cycle repeats. Kinda sucks, but with how expensive everything is getting these days, there's kind of no option. I have gigabytes of those. Yeah, exactly. Same here. Yeah, and the worst thing, Angelite, the worst thing is as well, like, when I'm free from work, the time is flying, but when I'm at work, the time is going at a snail's pace. I think I'm not gonna be the only one that has that feeling. I'll be at work and I'll be like, fuck me, just 1 hour passed, god damn it. And then I come home and it's time to chill, and I hop on I watch a YouTube video when I come home, and then I hop on Skate or something to play some game, and then before I know it, it's like, what, fuck, it's 3 a.m. I have to wake up at like 9, It's one of those situations at the moment. That's also why I'm really looking forward to having the whole month off, And I kind of just I really hope that I can sort out another month at the start of next year. That would be so fucking good. I don't know if it's gonna work out this time though, because they might be catching on to my game. Yeah, like what am I gonna say about this? It's unfinished. It sounds cool though. Like there's some cool elements in here. Definitely needs to be polished a bit, but I think one thing that I maybe would be a good thing for you to check. Like I'm not sure. I can kind of hear a little bit of something in it that maybe you've taken some inspiration from, but I don't know for sure. Some of the basses kind of remind me of Cohen's sound in a way. You know, the way the basses are sort of like sound designed. So maybe to get some ideas, listen to some Cohen sound because I think this track would suit a little bit more of like it's just a vibe, you know. It's not really supposed to be heavy and in your face. So maybe that kind of direction that they do is kind of good for this kind of thing. Um, Obviously they are like the top of the game at like sound design. They're absolute fucking geniuses, but any feedback on arrangement and sound design would be great. They were basically my reference. Okay, well, then at least it wasn't just me, you know? I was like, listen to it. I was like, those basses kind of sound similar to something that I would hear Cohen Sound do. I mean, it's good though. Like I love Cohen Sound. They make amazing music, and it's right up my alley. So yeah, I would probably just like listen to a bit more of their stuff and just see if you know like just make some notes, you know, like what do they do like I know for instance like what they do a lot is they'll do like such big amounts of like sound design for their tracks. Like I've seen a bunch of their videos on like their Patreon and stuff, and sometimes it's absolutely nuts. Like you can see in Ableton, right? You have the bar markers at the top, and they'll have like these project files where they're literally like, oh yeah, so here we have this little snippet that made it into the tune, and it's literally bar number 4,700 something in the project, and I'm like, holy shit. But you know, they do so many different iterations of like the sound design in their project files and just make like a ton of different versions of the same thing. And then they literally take the best parts and they'll put that together into a final track. So it's one of those things, you know, like they spend so much time on their sound design, but it does pay off in the end. It's a little bit, you know, I guess you're gonna have to have a computer that actually handles it, you know, because I don't think my PC would handle such an insanely large project. But you could split it up across different ones, different project files. And they do a lot of automation. Yeah, exactly. They have a lot of automation in their project. But also they also utilize a lot of randomization, which is kind of nice, and it's something that I picked up a lot from them, and I also tend to do quite a lot, especially during sound design. Is I'll write something that I like, you know, something that is either a cool vibe or maybe just a sound, like a bass sound or something. And then I'll take a whole bunch of the parameters that kind of give it interesting movement, map those to macros, and then chuck like some modulators in there that either just are like randomized LFOs or that device that I tend to use a lot, which is the device randomizer, which is the Max for Live device randomizer, this thing, and you just map these rates to the same macros of the rack that you've got the other things in, and the depth here as well. You sort of like play with the range of the mapping, and then you map that entire thing to the rack, and it will start modulating all the macros at random. And if you set up the macros correctly, you can get a lot of usable things out of it without really doing anything. You're just gonna play it and record the output, and you'll get like a ton of interesting stuff. They were like, oh, the stuff from the Led by Ancient Light album. Like they just had the dude playing a little bit of cello, and then holy shit, what they did afterwards. Yeah, it's a bit much, but I mean, when you listen to their music, you can kind of hear it as well. You know, like there is a lot of like texture and a lot of like little tiny bits of audio sprinkled in everywhere, and it does make it sound really amazing, but I can imagine that the work on it is kind of crazy. It does end up sounding great, but it's probably not for everyone, you know, to make music in that way, honestly. I do think it could definitely go a bit more in a direction like that, though. Like maybe just even like grab some like, I don't know, like some orchestral string patches or something from like Contact, or I don't know what else. There's like a ton of other plugins that'll do similar stuff, and just see if you can get like some cool melodies going on top of this, and then doesn't necessarily have to mean you're gonna use them here, but see if you can get like some cool, like I would probably start with like some solo legato string patch or something, and just play some stuff on top. Maybe grab a piano, play some stuff on top as well, and then you'll have some bits there. You can either start processing them afterwards, or you can put them in the intro and just use them like that. But I would probably start messing with other sort of like real instruments on it, because it definitely wants to go into that vibe, I think. Like I could hear some solo string on this, like some solo legato string on this. That would probably work pretty well. There's already, I don't know if it sounds more like a synth, but that's kind of doing a similar thing. But like maybe a higher string thing on top would be nice. But yeah, I can definitely hear the inspiration. I just would love to hear this when it's more finished, you know? More fleshed out, at least. At least try and come up with a bit of an intro for it, you know? That would also make it easier to sort of like judge the context of it all. Like right now it's kind of hard to give feedback on the composition, because it's literally just this section, and this could be good, but it all depends on what comes in front of it and what comes after it, of course. Like that is a really big part. It could work really well if what is in front of it suits this, or if what is in front of it doesn't suit this, it could, you know, completely, well, not work, if you get what I mean. It's always tough to kind of judge just a short snippet like that, because yeah, you don't have much context as opposed to what is gonna be around it. So yeah, try out and work on that, you know. But I would definitely like to hear it again. Cool. Next one we got Falcon. He's still here? Yeah, I think he is. Whoa, this looks like we have some weird stereo thing happening here. The right channel looks really loud compared to the left channel, but I guess we'll see. kind of ambient, right? Yeah, it's just, it almost leans into like the dark ambient kind of vibe, but and there's some cool sounds happening here, for sure. Balance is a little bit off though. Oh, I didn't even notice the title, yeah. Fucking hell, how long is it? Okay, it's a little long. Holy shit, what the hell did I just do? Didn't even know I could do this. What? Full screen Pro Q. Okay. Didn't even know I could make Pro Q full screen. Yeah, my right ear is enjoying this. And my right ear is my bad ear, by the way. Yeah, so the main thing right, so this is just gonna continue. Cool. I think we heard enough of it. Yeah, it's a little long, which I guess for like ambient is fine. But the one thing that this is missing right now is dynamics. Like there's cool sounds and there's interesting things within here. But one, the mix feels kind of off. Like it kind of wants, well, it needs to be remixed, obviously. But the other thing that it lacks is it lacks dynamics. It lacks movement throughout. It's all sort of like just blasting at the same level the entire way through. And there is no moment where things sort of like quiet down and then come build back up and do that kind of stuff. And that is something that really needs to happen in ambient as well. Like if you listen to proper ambient, there's usually a lot of dynamics. And I mean a lot of it. This feels really compressed. And there will obviously even in ambient, there will sometimes be parts of the track which will be really full and really compressed, but that's usually only for certain sections. And then there's like dynamic parts in other areas where things just quiet down a lot, and it really needs that to be good. So I don't know what kind of ambient you normally listen to. Like, I don't listen to a lot of ambient, but when I do, it's usually the stuff from the some artists from like the cryo chamber label. They have some pretty cool. Like, I tend to gravitate towards the more darker ambient stuff if I listen to any of it, which sometimes I do if I want to just have some background sound, when I'm just doing some other stuff. Um, but that would be maybe a good place to go to at least catch some like inspiration for like the structure and the what I mean with dynamics, because you'll hear a lot of that in those releases on that label. I do like ambient though. I've dabbled into it a little bit myself every once in a while. Just never done anything with it. Just if I don't feel like, usually when I have like days when my hearing my ear issues are playing up, then usually I just cannot stand heavy drums or like heavy basses or like drum and bass in general, because it'll just, my ears will just be like, no, fuck no, I can't listen to that now. And then if I still have want to produce, then, well, usually it's going to be something more along like ambient soundscapey kind of vibes, because that usually then is going to work out just fine. But yeah, I would look at like, well, I can only say for the stuff that I would listen to normally when I go to ambient, but I always keep forgetting the names of the artists that I like on that label. Let me check. Tut, tut, tut. I always forget. But there's a couple of artists on there that I tend to like a lot. Let's see if I see some names. I mean, there's probably a lot on there that's actually good, but I don't listen to it a lot, actually. Every once in a while. Oh yeah, Dead Melodies is a pretty cool one. He makes some cool stuff. Um, yeah, just go and check out this channel. You'll probably find some good inspiration there. Like, I know it's one of the biggest sort of like ambient kind of labels, especially dark ambient. Um, but it has a lot of absolute gems in there. Atrium Carcery, pretty nice stuff. Um, they'll have like playlist for all the albums as well, so you can check those out. Godbody Disconnect, that is also one of my favorite ones on there. He makes some absolute gems. But like I said, it's all really like the dark ambient kind of stuff. But I do tend to like that more, so I can only really comment on what I normally listen to. I generally don't like a lot of the more like the dreamy kind of ambient kind of stuff, which there's a lot of as well. If you search for like ambient on YouTube or something, you're gonna get like a gazillion of those really dreamy ambient kind of vibes, which I tend to not like that much. But some really good like dark ambient, yeah, I can enjoy that quite a bit. And it's also a good thing for like if you're making drum and bass music, by the way, and you like to make like a bit heavier drum and bass, then dark ambient is a pretty good place to go to get inspiration for like your intro sounds and stuff like that. These days, too many tracks just have like a really basic intro where it's just like, yo, here I've got a quarter note hi hat and then some drums coming in, and then let's go into the drop. But dark ambient is a pretty good place for like atmosphere inspiration if you you know, want to take your drum and bass tracks a little bit to the next level, because they tend to, well, make sounds that fit perfectly within drum and bass. But yeah, that label is a really nice label. They're also on Bandcamp. They release all their releases on Bandcamp, I believe. And yeah, they have a lot of good music on there in terms of ambient. Although it's all like into the dark ambient kind of space, but yeah, there's a lot of amazing stuff there. And I've listened to a few of those albums, like a couple of the artists on there that I tend to listen to when I see that they've put something new out, and yeah, it's usually pretty good. I mean, they're usually full albums that they post, so it's either going to be a full album or a compilation of tracks from different artists that they post. So they're usually like an hour long. But most of the time when they post something on YouTube, it's just a full album of that artist that they released. So yeah. Yeah, I guess as well for like video game stuff as well. It's also good inspiration because it definitely works in a similar kind of way. Let's say you're making a horror video game or something, like absolutely, it's an amazing place to go to for inspiration. Cool. Let's move on though, and see what we got next. We've got Carter. You know, I always have issues with that name. Are you in chat? If not, you can go check it out afterwards. Let's see what we got here. Bittersweet. He's in chat. Good. actually really enjoyed that. It's kind of cool. The one main issue with it, I think, and that might be something that is gonna be difficult to fix, but well, I mean, you could give it a shot. The main issue is that the main bass is pretty high pitched, if you get what I mean. Like the bass is, because the track is, well, it seems like the bass is sort of like located around C, somewhere in that area, and it plays that higher note, which is kind of, it kind of lacks a little bit of weight because of it, if you get what I mean. Like, what is that? Is that C? C or B, maybe? No, it's mostly just the sub. I mean, the sub is sitting pretty high up, and it lacks a bit of weight because of it. But that's probably because the track is just in a bit of an odd key, you know? So, I don't know exactly what the key is. If it is C or B, or if it's maybe something else. But what you could try out in certain sections is, well, first of all, you could try out doing it lower, doing like the sub an octave lower, and then playing around with some pitch bends to go from like some octave jumps, so that you have like the best of both worlds. You get like the higher sound that you currently have, and then you get sort of like a really low sub. But then that sub is going to be so low that it's going to be, well, it's going to be on the really low end of sub. But the other thing you can play around with is you don't necessarily always need to have the like, I don't know exactly what key this is, of course, but let's assume for a moment it's C minor, right? You can make a track in C minor, which is kind of an odd key for sub bass, because generally people will say like sub bass sounds best from like D sharp up to G, somewhere, maybe even up to F sharp. Like G is already going a bit high up, but like G would still work, honestly. But like, and obviously like D can still work as well, but it's getting low for sub even. But like then something like C is either gonna sound really low in terms of the pitch for sub, or it's gonna sound like it sits above like what a traditional sub in drum and bass would kind of want to be. And on like a live setting, on like a live system, there is a sort of like a sweet spot for the range in which sub kind of sounds best and kind of sounds the heaviest and like weightiest, and anything above it will kind of sound, well, a little bit thin, and below it it will be so low that it kind of disappears a little bit, or it rolls off because the way of how systems are set up. There is something you could do in tracks that I sometimes hear utilized when people make tracks in like odd keys like this, and they will. It kind of depends on how the track is written as well, but you can put the fifth in the bass. So if you are in C minor and you are writing your track, right? So let's just assume we're in C minor. For this case, I don't know if we are, but let's assume we are. So we can have a C minor chord, right? Okay, why did that only... Okay, there we go. So we have a C minor chord. Now, you can put the fifth, so G, you can put that in the bass. You can have like a sub in G, for instance, as well. If the track around it sort of like matches that. It is not something that is necessarily easy to pull off, but it can work to make like a track in a weird key work better. Usually you would probably then have like some sort of melody line on top, really leaning into that C, into the root of the chord, so that you still get that full kind of thing going. But it definitely is something that can work to make a track like that sound like it has more bass, you know? But it's something that is difficult to pull off, because a lot of times your sub wants to be the root of whatever the track is, and if it isn't, then it sometimes tends to sound strange. But with like the fifth, it usually still works pretty well. You can even go like really crazy and use like the third or something, but that is even harder to pull off. That's why Matthews doesn't play his track Bubble live. I mean, C sharp, yeah, it's really low, but if the track is made to suit it, it can still work. Like there are some, there is a track, I believe it's by Bunshin, that is also in C sharp or even C. But because the bass is like a really rumbly kind of bass, and it has like a ton of sort of like, well, it has a ton of harmonics above the sub, it still works on a live system, even though it's really fucking low, you know? But it almost, it's just a really odd bass, and it also has a lot of mid-range with a lot of distortion, you know, and stuff like that. So then it still kind of works, even live, even though the sub is actually really fucking low. So it is something that you can definitely pull off, but it is difficult to do. I do like the vibe of this whole tune, though. Like, I don't want to sound too negative, because I really like the vibe of this tune. The synths and all that is really, really nice. Yeah, so because the bass is just sitting in that higher octave, it's just, I don't know, it just feels a little like it lacks something. But like you could... Okay, we have a new update. Okay, so we have a bit of a low pass kind of thing. Cool, let's just do that for now. It's gonna sound nothing like the tune, but it's fine. So what key are we in? We're in B, from the sounds of it. And then it's an octave below that. So it sounds like we're here, in terms of the sub. Well, you could do a move where you go from B to F sharp, which is the fifth of B. And that way you can sort of like play around with it. You could maybe do like a little section of B on the first beat or the first couple of beats, and then go to F sharp, which is a lot weightier, right? And because it's the fifth of B, it still works. And it will probably still work underneath it, depending what the key of this whole thing is, of course. Like if it's, I don't know, it could also be something different, right? You could be playing the fifth of E, for instance, in this case, and if you're playing B, but the tune is in E minor. That, you know, it kind of depends on how the track is written, but it feels like we're in B. So the fifth of B would be F sharp, but you can put that there, and that has a lot of weight. That is right in the sweet spot of what like sub on a system would work as, you know? So that could work pretty well. Yeah, exactly, Hakari. That's exactly what I meant. You know, playing with an inversion. So you just, instead of using the root of whatever the track is, instead of like if you're in B minor, instead of using B, go for the fifth or something like that. And like I said, you can switch between the notes, right? You can start on B and then go to the fifth to kind of get the best of both, basically. I do think it's in B though, from what I can hear. I would have to actually start analyzing it to fully understand, but. See how that sub is just sitting at that higher B note, that the entire time. Like, it still works. It still works, honestly speaking. The only thing that is the only issue is that when it would be played live, that would probably not sound as weighty because, you know, it kind of well, it doesn't. It is not really low enough for the sub to kind of really make your chest rumble, if you get what I mean. Angelite saying, last time I promised I'll make drum and bass. Sadly, I lost my job and caught the cold. Hey, I'm here with you. Next time, cool. I mean, I still want to hear some from you, for sure. Drums could maybe be a little bit more upfront, maybe, in this. Or maybe that mid-range stabby sound that layered on top of the bass is just a tad loud. Has a bit of an Imanu kind of vibe here as well, in this area of the track. Okay, I'll let you guys just listen to this one more time because I need to piss. So I'm just quickly gonna take a bathroom break, and then we'll get into the next track when I come back. So just have another listen to this one throughout while I'm gone. Give me one moment. Yeah, I do like this tune though. Again, one other thing that I just noticed. Would like a little bit more of an outro. This one isn't as bad. Because it does sort of like tend to build up a little bit towards the end. But I would like to maybe hear a bit of an outro. Cool tune, by the way. All the tunes played were dope. Yeah, we had some nice ones today as well. But we're not done. Next one up, Angelite. So I already noticed it was in 78 BPM, so I was like, that's not drum and bass. I am looking forward to one day hearing some drum and bass from you. That would be cool. But let's see what we got here. Probably another good vibe. Next song is Throne on Lies. Which is you, right? Yeah, again, just another good one. The the harp. I heard a little bit of an almost Asian sounding little run in there, which kind of goes back to something that we've talked about in the past. Perk is probably world percussion creator. I think I know. I think I know that library. Or wait, no, I have one called Taiko Creator, I believe, which is just a Taiko library. Maybe that's the one that I was thinking of. Probably a different one. I'm kind of interested in the game though as well. You know, I hear you talking about that quite often, and I'm like kind of interested. Wanna see the game. It's on Epic Games. Okay, cool, cool. You might have to send me some stuff from it so I can check. Definitely gives adventure vibe for sure. Exactly. Yeah, contact libraries do tend to use quite a bit of space, but you know, it's understandable in the way of what the instruments are, right? It's sample based, so samples take up space. It's the same as like the Patreon pack that I released today with like the atmospheres. Like it's only 35 samples, but because it's atmosphere samples, they're a little bit longer. It's like 600 something megabytes for just the 35 samples, you know? So and the same thing applies to like a sample based instrument in Contact because you're dealing with a lot of different samples and it just takes up a lot of space. But it does tend to sound better, you know, the ones that have like a lot of different samples recorded for it, they tend to sound better because it's just a lot more information there. Yeah, I mean, physical modeling can get a really long way though, especially these days. Like, it has really come a long way compared to what it used to do back in the day. Like, I remember like the first like physical modeling kind of things coming out, and it was like, mostly just making bell sounds, you know? But nowadays, there's like some pretty advanced physical modeling plugins, so definitely some cool things in there. Yeah, I would like to one day check out the game and see. Well, first of all, if it runs on my PC, that would be the one question, of course. I'm still looking around for a new GPU, but yeah, I'm just waiting for a good deal. I saw one earlier this week. Um, Somebody was selling, what was it, a 3090, I believe, or 3080. I don't know exactly. It was a pretty good price, but it was literally all the way at the other side of the country. So I was like, fuck that shit. Like I'm not gonna travel to the other side of the country for it. Um, Using like public transport and shit like that. It would be preferable if it's something that is in my area that I can just go and pick up. I'm not too keen on like just ordering a used graphics card from somebody online and paying him and then having it shipped to me, you know, and then praying that it works. Or that you don't get like a package with a bunch of breaks in it, you know? So it was kind of a shame because it was a good deal, but yeah, it was like literally on the opposite end of the country. So I was like, yeah, not the best. So yeah, I'm still waiting for like a good option, but I would like something like on that sort of like range. Like sure, the newer series like the 4000, 5000 series would be nice, but eh, when I see the prices I'm like let's not. I just need something that allows me to play some of the games that I play on like higher settings, you know? And a 3080 or a 3090 would do just fine. And given that I'm still on a GTX 1060, that is now at this point, it might even be 10 years old, maybe even more. Yeah, exactly. Like I'm looking around for used ones as well because the new prices are just absolutely crazy. Like I was looking at some of the prices of the newer cards and I was like, I'm sorry, but like that's like half of what my entire PC cost. So yeah, I would have to get paid for like a proper like job coming in or something that pays me really well and then maybe, but if it's just like me doing my regular work, no, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna spend like a whole month worth of work on a video card. I'm sorry. That's a bit crazy. Yeah, you told me about that. I saw. I think it was I think it was a 3080 that I saw or a 3090, but I might have it saved in my phone. Might still be open actually. Or was it? Hmm. I think it was a 3090, honestly. But yeah, or something for a 30. What did you say? 3090? That's a good price. Exactly. Like the most of the ones that I'll find are like 650 to 700 and above. But every once in a while one pops up for like 500 ish. Wait, one got posted today. Oh wait, that is a different one. That's not the one I would like. Yeah, there's one posted right now for like 550. It's a 3090, but it's like 140 kilometers away from me. So that would be a whole day of travel by train. So yeah, no shot. And then all the other ones are also like there's one for 600. It's also like 160 kilometers away. There's one for 400, 3090, but it's in Belgium. The fuck, 400? That seems too good to be true. A 24 gigabyte 3090 for 400? With also no information in the description whatsoever. That seems like it might be a scam. Let me guess, this person only wants to ship it, not pick up in real life. Wouldn't surprise me. Does it tell me? It was posted today? Yeah, exactly, just what I thought. He doesn't want to have it picked up, he only wants to send it. Yeah, that might be a fucking scammer. I mean, you never know, but it almost sounds too good to be true, given that all of the other ones here kind of start at 500, 550, maybe, and then he just posts one at 400. Yeah. And then especially when he doesn't want you to come pick it up, that's kind of a bit shady. It might be one of those cases where you order it and you get sent a package filled with a couple of bricks. I mean, like, listen, I would be fine traveling a little bit, don't worry. Like, we've got some good trains, but still. Preferably, I would love to just be able to have it in the area of Rotterdam, or maybe The Hague, something like that. That's easy enough, because then it's just literally an hour away or something at most. A 3070 could be good enough. I did see that the 3070s were pretty affordable, actually. I did see that. I would like a little bit more VRAM though, but the 3070s are what, 8 gigabyte, right? Yeah. What the fuck? There's a 3070 listed for free. What? Oh no, wait. He just put a price of €0 and he just wants people to bid. Okay, I get it. Yeah, they started like what, 180, 200, something like that. Maybe a 3080. 3080 is 10 gigabytes, right? $350. 195 kilometers away. Holy shit. They just keep getting worse. Oh, here, there is one actually. 360 for a 3080, 10 gigabyte, and it's what? 21 kilometers away. Like, that would be doable. Something like that. That would be pretty easy to get to. There's actually a couple of options for 3080 within my area at the moment. All sort of like around the 350 kind of mark. So maybe I'll look into that. It'll definitely be an upgrade from what I have, so that's the most important thing, you know? Like, I just need an upgrade. Because my one is just like, especially I notice it when I'm playing Skate, it's just absolutely horrible. When I up the graphics, it's just, I'm already amazed with how well it still performs. Because it's listed that my graphics card is supposed to work for just the minimum settings. But when I play on like high settings, it still works relatively fine. Little bit of a stutter every now and then, but other than that, it's fine. The frame rate is actually still good, but when I put it on ultra settings, it just craps out. And let alone running it on like, what is that called? 1440? What is that? 2K, I believe. Like, then it absolutely goes, well, nuts. Like, I like to. It looks so much better if I play it in 2K because of the anti-aliasing just being a lot better. And then I downscale it to 1080p, and it just looks so much better than when I just run the game in 1080p. But at the same time, my graphics card is just absolutely not liking that. Save that one. Yeah, I might have to go check. I'll get paid again soon, so Hopefully there's still gonna be some online. There's actually a good amount of 3080s listed at the moment, so should probably still have some ones online for that same price. Cool. Yeah, not much feedback otherwise on this though, but you kind of get it. Let's move on to the next one because people are waiting. We've got Throne on Lies by NG. I was getting confused earlier. I saw NG, you were in chat 2 times. I had been seeing your name pop up with a black profile image, and then suddenly I saw your name pop up with a white profile image. I was like, huh? What? Did you seriously just change your image? But I think you were just you just have 2 accounts. Let's check out your track. It's another one in that same BPM range. Oh, you really just changed it. Okay. That's fine though. Same BPM range actually, 74 BPM. Okay, different vibe though. One question before we move on with this. Is it supposed to be basically close to mono? There's like no width at all. Which sounds a bit odd. Maybe it gets wider later. Yep, okay. Maybe it gets wider later. Sometimes you can use that as an effect. Have it sort of like send it first and then spread it out later, but I don't know if that was intentional. I mean, it feels like it could have some width though.
Beneath the weight of trust we gave, a heart once bright, now a haunted grave. The scars we wear, they're bold and raw. Echoes of battles, bruised by the law. We're screaming out this pain. In the wreckage we remain. This restless soul will break away from the ashes of yesterday. We built a throne on lies, crowned with the ashes of goodbye.
Yeah, it sounds good though. Like I like this a lot. But it really needs width. Absolutely. Like it needs a proper mix where things are spread out. Maybe some of the instruments recorded double so you can spread them out left and right, stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, even though it's mono, it still sounds really good. Like the mix itself sounds pretty solid for being mono, right? I really like it actually. Like if I listen to this kind of music, then this could be something I could listen to, which is a good thing because I don't listen to a lot of metal or any kind of music like this. I do sometimes, but not too often. I'm not the best to give feedback on this, though. That's the one issue. I'm not a person who makes this kind of style of music. So for me, giving feedback on this always feels a little bit. What am I gonna say? I do like the tune, though. Absolutely. So was this played live in like a and recorded, or is this made like with digital instruments? Because if it is made with digital instruments, I would say it's absolutely really impressive that you pulled it off like that. But I don't think it is. Also, it wouldn't make sense that it's all basically mono if that is the case. Digital, really? Then why is it mono?
In shadows, trust decays, promises burn away, whispers echo in my head, remnants of what we say. We built a throne on lies, crowned with the ashes of goodbyes. This aching heart won't.
I would actually like to hear it again when it's properly mixed and has like width and everything. Like would be really nice. Might actually be a track that I would put in one of my playlists, honestly. Yeah, I'm just confused as well about the stereo image. Or the lack thereof, I guess. But production-wise, I would say it's really good. And if it's done with digital instruments, I'm like, huh? Okay, that's kind of good. Like I've heard people use like those like there's a ton of like libraries that do like distorted guitar stuff, and usually you can kind of hear it as well. But this is pretty impressive if you've used something like that. By the way, are the vocals you? Or not? That's something I would be quite interested in. Because vocals sound pretty good, actually.
Today, beneath the weight of trust we gave, a heart once bright, now a haunted grave. The scars we wear, they're bold and raw. Echoes of battles, bruised by the law. We're screaming out this pain. In the wreckage we remain. This restless soul will break away from the ashes of yesterday. We built a throne on lies, crowned with the ashes of goodbyes. yesterday. We built a throne on lies, crowned with the ashes of goodbyes. This aching heart won't fade away from the betrayal of yesterday.
Yeah. I am kind of wondering still, are the vocals you or not? Just so I can understand, you know. But like, I do think it has a lot of potential. Let's just say it like that. With a proper mix, this has a lot of potential. So, let's see. We got another tune. Next one. It's called Song Feedback. So, who is that? Let me go to the Discord and see who sent in a song called Song Feedback. Josh Kun. Okay. Not sure if you're still here, but let's see what your tune is about. This compressor on the mix bus is begging for mercy. Yeah, it just needs a proper mix, you know? Yeah, that was me. Wait. Oh, the next song. That's you. Okay, cool. I mean, it's not necessarily proper headphones. It's more like it needs a proper mix where, you know, elements are panned a little left and right and such like that. So you get that stereo image. You know, you get that spread in the stereo image, because right now everything is in the middle and it's all really centered. And especially with this kind of music, there's usually quite a lot of layering where there's elements left and right and maybe also in the center, but then there's like double takes and it gives a much wider feel of the stereo image, which right now it has none of. And that is one of the bigger issues right now. And if you improve on that, it would already sound so much better. Anyways, let's move on. It's the sound of the police. Ooh. Nice vibe. Yeah, this just puts a smile on my face, honestly. In a good way, though. In a good way. There's one, yeah, the one issue is that what is that? What are we gonna call that section? This section, where it goes from the main sort of like idea, the main sort of like drop kind of feel to like what? It's kind of like a break from that, but it's not really a breakdown because there's also still a lot of drums happening, and it kind of feels more like a B section or something. That section is just too loud. Like, there's a lot of instruments that could probably get tuned down a little bit in terms of the level. You can kind of see it in the waveform as well, where right here, you've got a good amount of dynamics still. And then suddenly, bam, this brick of audio, you know? And you can hear it as well. It's just like really loud in this area compared to here, where everything feels a little bit more dynamic. And that kind of put me off a little bit. And same with that section here at the end, that synth that came in. That synth is also really loud. Where is it? Is it here? Yeah. That bass synth is just really loud as well. Tequila section. It's a good one, yeah. No, I think the vibe is great though. I like the sort of like, what is it, almost like garagey kind of drums at first, and then going into a bit more dubstep kind of vibe, almost like an old school dubstep vibe, which is nice. It's just that middle section is just too loud. I would probably tone a lot of the instruments a bit down there, make them quieter, which should also make the actual drop hit harder, you know? I do like this though. I would almost want in this section maybe a little bit of a really sort of like, how we're gonna call that, a really like shuffly kind of shaker or a hi-hat kind of thing in the drums. There's the offbeat sort of like hat happening right now, but it wouldn't be nice to have some like really sort of like shuffly kind of shakers as well in there to give it even more of that shuffle. With like a good amount of swing, you know? Maybe transition here could be a little bit better. Like from the garagey kind of part into the dubstep part, maybe that transition could be a little bit nicer. Like play around with some call and response or something to kind of break up the main pattern, and then have it go into the dubstep part afterwards. Like right here, I would maybe... What is the BPM of this? I don't know. Doesn't tell me. But we got... And then right here, on that snare, I would cut most of the stuff, do something else in between here, and then go into the dubstep part. See how it just keeps going with the drums? I would cut all the drums right here on that snare. So you kind of get a little break. Then I feel like it comes back in here. So do something like this. Now obviously this is going to sound weird because there's nothing happening now, but... And then something here, and then go into there, which maybe even will include that as well. So we have that little part still, but something here, and then go into there. Just to kind of break it up, you know? Break up that pattern. But other than that, and like the loudness of that other section, because compared to this, like if you hear this, and then the section that comes in here, see how much of a break it suddenly is because of how loud everything is? That would easily be able to go down. And it's mostly, I think it's mostly this sound that is also at the end, that sound. That sound just is too loud compared to the rest, and that is in here as well. I can hear it underneath there. So yeah, that's something I would try and work on. Other than that, I really enjoyed that one. Let's move to the next one. We got Nisco with Conspiracies. We back to drum and bass vibe. Nice vibe here for the intro. Okay. Really loud. It's cool, but it's a bit too loud, I think, overall. Just pushed a little bit too much.
We too know something about conspiracies and their political utility, about how fear can corrode our thinking, about how raging against the powers of darkness can convince us that we stand in the light.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, a lot of potential in this one as well. It's just too loud. I'm sorry. it's just too loud. I get that the type of music is supposed to be loud, but you can even see it. Like, there's also a lot of width happening, but that is probably the side information is probably this loud because it's been clipped to absolute shit, you know? Like, look how similar the top bar here in millimeters is the mid channel and the bottom bar is the side channel. Normally, if you listen to like a drum bass track on like a professionally or like a track of one of the bigger names, you'll see that there is plenty of stuff in the sides, but it's always quieter than what is in the mid channel. Like, most of the time it won't even come near 0 decibels, like the limit of what like the mids will do. Like, the mids are usually hugging the 0 decibel area quite heavily, but the side information won't. And here you can kind of see that even the sides are just coming up almost all the way up to 0. And that is probably a result of just either limiting or clipping it so hard that it becomes this loud. Like, here, even the side information is louder in the intro. Look. Which could actually be a problem, because then what you get is when you sum it to mono, you lose a lot of information because everything in the sides is just louder. And everything in the sides, when it's summed to mono, that is all just disappearing. It's just gone, right? So when you have a lot of information in the sides, then like you have here, that could actually make the track worse in mono. I can hear that when I sum it to mono, it's not bad though. Like, I can still hear most of the main elements, and they're not necessarily losing their character, which is sometimes something that will happen. So I can hear that the mix in terms of like the difference, or how should I put this? The mix way is done in a way that's good, where you don't have too much stuff happening in the sides, if you get what I mean. Like, if this was quieter and not pushed as much on the limiter or clipper on the master, it would still work really well, and it would even sound better than what it is currently. Sometimes what you'll get is there'll be a lot of information in the sides, and when it's summed to mono, a lot of that disappears, and it takes away the actual character of the sounds of the bass or the drums, and it'll just sound a lot worse. But that is not necessarily the case. It gets a little bit less full because there's no sides happening, right? It's just mono, but I can still hear all the elements. So that means that you've done that in the right way. It's just pushed too much at the end on the master. See, everything is still there. It's not like suddenly the mid-range of the bass is completely gone or something, which we've had plenty of tracks sent in over the years where that did happen. And then it's actually a mixing problem, you know? Then it's actually like, oh, there is something happening in the sides that is actually a problem. Here it's not. It's just that everything is just pushed way too hard. No. You don't necessarily have to reduce anything on the sides at all. Like, that's what I just explained. The problem here is that you've just pushed it too hard on the final limiter or clipper or whatever you're using. And because you're pushing that really hard, it brings up everything. So it brings up the side information as well. And that's why the side information is so loud. And if you tone down that, then the side information would already sit at a better level. It's really just the whole thing has just been pushed a bunch of decibels too loud. Like, you can probably get away with maybe 3, 4, 5 decibels less, honestly. Like, that's the thing. Like, loud aggressive music like this, I know it's supposed to be loud, but you shouldn't be getting the aggressiveness, the grit and the heaviness from like pushing it as loud as you fucking can. Like that's not how you should get there. Um, the it's fine that you're hitting 0, but you can also see like this is absolutely just it's like 0 basically. It just hits. You can see it on the kick here, for instance. See how it's completely squared off. Like that's just probably a result of clipping. Honestly, when I look at it, and if you tone that down, you'll have a little bit more dynamics in the track, which usually just makes it sound better, honestly. And if the sound design and the elements of the sound is still, designed in a good way, you will still be able to get the same amount of grit out of it, but with a cleaner sound. Whereas now, because you're using a lot of clipping, I think at least, could also be a limiter, but if you set a limiter up in a particular way, it kind of acts like a clipper, so kind of the same thing. Because you're doing that, it's just like, it kind of, how do I say this? Well, it's kind of just trying to be as loud as possible, but that usually isn't a good thing for the quality of the track. Yeah, there's some pretty cool things you can do. Like ring modulation is something you can use a lot. Actually, it's something that's pretty interesting. Especially if you have like some noisy elements or something, you can have the noise be ring modulated with your sub, and then it will give the same impression as if you're distorting a sub and noise together, which creates like the fluttery kind of sound in the noise. But you're not actually distorting it, so it doesn't increase the level and makes everything sound completely destroyed in terms of the distortion, but it will still give it the same impression. And you can use that on other elements as well. Like you can use that on the high end of drums, for instance. You can use it on cymbals and stuff like that. And it's something that's pretty interesting. You can also do it like, let's say, you can use that for interesting stereo effects as well. Like, I was messing with this not too long ago, actually, where I had some drums, and I made some drums, and they were really nice, but they were lacking a bit of width. Like, I was like, yeah, the drums are cool, but they're lacking a bit of width. So I could add, like, another layer to the drums and make that layer really wide so it fills up the stereo width. But I was like, what if I just ring modulate the side information to a sub bass? And it just, because only the sides are being ring modulated, it already creates sort of like extra impression of width, and it worked. It worked pretty well. And that's some cool things you can do. Ring mod is definitely an effect that's kind of interesting. But right now it just feels like it's all just too loud, basically. Overall vibe is good though. Overall vibe is good. It's mostly just that, yeah, it's too loud. And if it's toned down a bit, it would probably still work just as fine. I think the sound design is doing a good enough job for it not to be pushed this fucking loud. And the other thing as well is like, if something is this loud, it will also be more annoying to listen to for a longer period of time. Like, the louder something is, the more ear fatiguing it also is. So, I know it's a whole issue in the music industry in general, where things have just been getting louder and louder over time. And it's not just drum and bass, it's every genre, like, or at least every loud genre, like loud music, whether it's rock music or heck, even in pop music, it is happening. Like the loudness war whole thing. But we're kind of getting at the point now where we can start toning it down a bit, because we've kind of gone overboard with it, and now we need to start toning it down a bit, because usually, like, you can push things in terms of loudness for sure, and it can work really well, but we've now gotten to the level where people are trying to push it even further, but it's actually degrading the quality of the music. And at that point, I think we need to, you know, just step back a bit. Have some more dynamics in there. I mean, there's definitely, like, clipping is something that I would use as well. What I would advise to do is not, like, have, like, one clipper at the master. Because sometimes you can use clipping to get something to be really loud. And I don't necessarily have a problem with, like, a drop being really fucking loud if there is plenty of dynamic parts in the rest of the track, or at least areas where that track can breathe. Right now it feels like everything is just pushed too loud on the master, but if you want just a loud track, the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to have small amounts of clipping in various places of the mix. So maybe the drums have their own clipper on them, so they get soft clipped or hard clipped depending on what sounds better. And then you shave off a little bit of the peaks there. Maybe some of the other elements like the bass and other stuff could get slightly clipped a little bit just to create some extra harmonics. But then on the master you have another clipper, but because everything else is already clipped earlier on in the project a little bit, like, you don't want to overdo it, because then you're just going to get to a similar result where everything is just way too fucking loud. But if you just have, like, slight tiny amounts of clipping here and there just to shave off, like, the loudest peaks, then you will be able to get it to be louder on the master with less effort, and it will sound cleaner most of the time, because it's not just one clipper trying to do all the work on the master track. Yeah, exactly. You can get a mix that is hitting like -3 LUFS and it sound good. But most of the time those tracks are not that level of loudness all the way through. Like, there will be some areas in the track where there is more room to breathe. And most of the times those tracks are also sort of like produced in a way that it lends itself to be that loud. Right? Like, if you have a track like, there are some examples of, like, tracks where they are that loud, but it's also because the bass is just really sustained. Like, if you have a bit more of a plucky bass, like we have here, something that has a bit more chops, right? Where you... There's, like, some gaps here and there. That already that already makes it less hit hard on the loss meter, right? If you have just a bass sound that is just sustained the entire way through, that is always going to be louder, right? Although silence is a very big tool as well in terms of getting something to sound loud. Like, just because a bass is sustained all the way through and it's hitting 0 decibels doesn't mean that it's louder, or that it's going to be perceived louder as something that has some gaps in there. Because silence is probably the best tool when it comes to getting something to sound loud. It's the contrast between the two that matters the most, right? Still good though. I really like the sounds in here. I think this has a lot of potential. Just needs a slightly different mix, or at least a slightly different amount of mastering. Maybe just a bit quieter. That's all it needs. Cool. Next up, DMD interruption. Let's see. There's one more track in the Discord. Let me also grab that one. Well, I'm sorry, D-Riff. Your downloads are not enabled on SoundCloud, so I can't grab your track. Hope you're still in the chat. If not, then maybe next time. But I cannot download your track. Cool. Next up, Inferno Media, right? Chew. Was this, by the way, one moment, was this the track where you said you started this a long time ago and you dusted it off because you wanted to finish it? Or was it somebody else who was talking about that earlier? I don't want to scroll up in the chat for that long because it's been quite a while ago that somebody said that in chat. I think it was you, right? Could be wrong. I'm not the biggest fan of the snare, actually. Just a little, I'll rewind it a little part, but I'm not a big fan of the snare. It sounds too acoustic, I think, like an acoustic snare. It just wants a bit more of a digital sound, I think. It's not bad, but mostly just my own personal preference, to be honest. I feel that right here. Like it almost, like I think maybe a slightly higher snare would be nice, but then also this snare could work maybe if it has a bit of a higher resonance layered into it or something. You know, I do kind of like it. It fits kind of, but it also feels like the snare is missing something, and I'm not entirely sure what. if you get what I mean. But yeah, it definitely, like a higher resonance could maybe be nice on it. Like I know that these ones that I have, they're higher pitched in general, but like that has a high resonance, right? And then yours has a really lower resonance, so it does fit though. Like that's the thing, it does fit. It's more like my taste is usually, I would go for a different kind of snare, but that's also personal preference, so it is what it is. It still works though. Well, you could make it higher, actually. Something that I sometimes do when I make snares, like these snares here, that one for instance, even though it's higher pitched, it doesn't necessarily, the fundamental isn't that high pitched. See, the fundamental sits here. It's like 300 hertz and a little bit. So it isn't even that high. I think yours is a little lower. Hey, why is this not showing? Oh, it's all the way at the bottom. It's like 280, 290, somewhere around there in terms of hertz. So it's actually not too far off. What I did for that snare that I made, that one, is I grabbed an acoustic snare. I made the fundamental part and sort of like the punch of it in Serum, and like some noise layer on top of it. But then I took an acoustic snare, I cut off the fundamental with a really sharp EQ, with a really sharp high pass, and I rolled off everything below the resonance, so like the fundamental and a couple of the harmonics of the fundamental. Everything was rolled off, and then I put on a frequency shifter, and I shifted those resonances up a lot. So they are shifted up like a couple of octaves, maybe even. So they sit much higher than what they would normally sit, and that is then layered together and compressed and processed together to make the final snare sound like that. Right? So that's how I would normally get those sort of like high resonance kind of snares. It's where I'll really like frequency shifters in general are absolutely goated for making drums, because you can just shift things up and down, and when you're making drums, that is one of your biggest friends, I think. Frequency shifters, because sometimes it'll just sound so much better when things are just much higher, and obviously you do need to get rid of the fundamental of the acoustic layer, because otherwise it's just gonna end up being a mess. But when done right, it can work really well. And I have so many of those snares that I made over the years that use that same kind of technique. I like bringing back that little sound from the intro, that synth stabby kind of sound, that filtered sort of like detuned saw wave kind of sound. Yeah, this sound basically. What was the sound of this again? There was a name for this sound. Mentasm, I believe. That's what the Noisia guys would call them. Yeah, I think it's a good tune though. Like, it's a really good tune. It just... Yeah, the thing with the snare, like, that's the only thing I really have to say about it. But honestly, that is, like I said as well earlier, it also is a personal preference. What do you think of the mastering? It was a CLA 2A and API 2500. I don't think it's bad at all, actually. It sounds pretty good. It's not like... It is actually still loud, right? Like, it is still loud. We can see it. But if we compare it to the previous example where something was too loud, like, see here the difference between the mids and the sides? Like, you can see it's not pushed too far, right? It's the side information is considerably quieter than the mid information. It's not at the same level. Plus, I think if we zoom in here, yeah, see, it's not squared off either. So there's like, you can see the individual sort of like wiggles in the sound in the waveform still, which, as opposed to when something is completely clipped, it would just be square at the top here. It would just be a flat line. And that is usually when things start sounding worse. Like, you can see a tiny little bit here, but that could also just be a result of some other things happening at a certain way together that it just ends up creating a little squarey kind of sound there. Like, yeah, we can see a little bit here, but it's fine, you know? Like, if you would actually see the whole tune through, that every time when the waveform hits like the loudest point here or the loudest point here, and it just becomes a square wave at every single cycle, yeah, then it's too much. But that's not the case at all. You can see that there's a lot of detail there, so that's good. I mean, I have a clipper that I use that does that same thing, actually. Like, if you don't push it too far. The clipper from Newfangled Audio, Saturate, that clipper is amazing. Like, it does the same thing, where you'll have, there's actually a slider in there called Detail Preservation, and if you take that all the way down, it'll just end up squaring off everything. But if you bring that slider all the way up, it tries to retain that sort of like detail in the areas where it's clipping. Even though it's clipping stuff, it still tries to sort of like make sure it's not just becomes a square wave, basically. And obviously there is a limit at some point. If you keep pushing that clipper, at some point everything is going to turn into a square wave as well. But it tends to work a lot better than most other clippers because it retains that detail in those areas. Whereas most clippers would just say like, oh, you're clipping here, let's just round everything off. It's just either going to be soft clipped or hard clipped, depending on how you set it up. And that clipper tends to work a little bit better. It almost feels like it's a mixture between a limiter and a clipper in that sense, because it does clip like a regular clipper would, but then it also retains some detail like you would get with a compressor or a limiter. So it kind of gives you the best of both. And that is usually my go-to tool for anything that needs to be loud. I mean, generally speaking, I think it's a good thing if a track has a little bit more dynamics, if it's not completely slammed, you know? Like, I get it, it might be a little bit quieter than some of the other tracks around, but for the quality of the track, it's usually better. And you can actually see it happening right now that there are a lot of tracks being released that are more dynamic again. It's not everywhere, like there's still plenty of tracks that are being released that are also just slammed to fuck. But there is definitely a slowly but surely there is a little bit of a trend back down happening in terms of loudness now, which is a good thing actually. Like, if you take any music from like the last 20 years that in the time, well, 20 might be a bit much, but like the last 10 to 15 years where things have just gotten so fucking loud, if you listen to it on headphones or earbuds for like a longer period of time, your ears are gonna get so fatigued, man. It's just because things are so loud and everything is loud in the mix, you know? It's just like things have gotten to that point where it's just too much. And if you listen to, let's say, some old school drum and bass, you can listen to it for so much longer before your ears get tired, because there is just more dynamics in the mix. And yeah, it's a good. I like this one, man. Even though I'm not the biggest fan personally of the snare, I still like the tune a lot. This song changed my whole workflow. The result is a non-brickwalled master, but I had to be really careful with EQ compression and also had to master every single channel. Drums have their own. I mean, yeah, that's fine though. Like, I'm kind of doing similar stuff when I'm producing, because I'll have like all my drums in a bus, in like a group in Ableton, and that group will have its own processing. And then I'll have all my basses in its own group, and those will have their own processing, even though there's already processing on the individual tracks. So in a way, that is the same thing, you know, and that's fine. That's completely fine. I have not used anything from Ursa DSP, actually. I have not used anything by them. But I heard good things about it, yeah. I just have too many plugins already. I don't need anything at this point, unless it's a plugin that really does something interesting that is different, you know? Like, for instance, when Unfiltered Audio came out with Spec Ops, that was just a plugin that made me go like, yeah, that is something I could actually use during sound design, because it's different from a lot of the other plugins that I have. But most of the stuff being released these days is just another, you know, another reverb plugin or another distortion plugin. And I'm sorry, sure, it might be a good plugin, but I already have 10, 15 different distortion plugins that do the job just fine. So do I really need one? I don't think so, right? Stop bullying my... Oh, little snare. No, it's cool, man. It's cool. Oh, that made me smile. But like a plugin really has to do something new for me to be interested in it. The last one that I purchased was Beam. That was the last plugin that I bought, because it just of the way of how it's set up and how it does things, you know? It was one of those plugins that made me go like, oh yeah, that seems kind of interesting, by Lunacy Audio. But other than that, I don't really bought a lot of plugins these days, or buy a lot of plugins these days. Standard clip. Was that a free clipper? I don't know. Standard clip plugin? Oh, that's by Sir Audio. Oh yeah, I've seen that one. I've seen that one. It's not free, but it's relatively affordable in terms of like plugins. I mean, it seems like that'll do the job just fine. Exactly. But yeah, the one that I use is... Yeah, exactly. You just stop buying things at some point. I've had those years where I would literally buy plugins every month, and I now have so many plugins, and like 60 to 70% of them I never use anymore, you know? That's also one of those things. You buy a shit ton of plugins, and then actually you end up realizing over the years that you only use a fraction of them, really. A lot of it is just, you know, you're like seeing this, oh, fancy new plugin. Ooh, I need to buy it. But then really, when you think about it, do you really need to? Probably not. But yeah, my go-to clipper would usually just be this one. Oh, it's actually on sale right now. This is my go-to clipper. I would usually grab this one. And it has this slider right here, the detail preservation. That's what I was talking about. When you bring that up, it will just try and retain some of the detail in the areas where it's clipping. Obviously, it doesn't clip it as loud. When you do that, it'll sound louder when this is turned down. But then it also gets that effect where everything gets squared off. And if you up this, it kind of... Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it does kind of retain a bit more detail. It's actually really affordable at the moment. $19. That's a pretty... I didn't even know. This is no sponsored segment or anything. I didn't know it was on sale. I just brought this up to show which one I use. Newfangled, if you're watching, you should pay me. You should sponsor me. Honestly, I have a couple of their plugins, but I only really use that one. Like, that's another one of those things where I have a bunch of their plugins, but do I really need them? Not really. I only really use that clipper, and that's the only one that I use from their plugins. I have the transient shaper as well, the punctuate plugin. It's a good transient shaper. I just never use it. You know, I have I have the plugin by Sound Spiff that I'll usually use for transient shaping if I really need something specific for transient shaping. So yeah, I got the pendulate one as well, which is a more like a I believe it's a synth. It's been a while. I've opened it up, so could be wrong. Again, never use it, so it's just sitting there catching dust, like many of the projects that we were talking about earlier. And then I have this one other one, which I think it was a free plugin that they made called Obliterate, which again, when I saw it, I was like, oh, let me grab that. It sounds cool. But what it really is, it just makes things absolutely, it just destroys a sound completely. Never used it, so it's just sitting there. And there's so many instances of those kind of plugins, you know. In reality, you really just need a couple of plugins that you really, really like and use a lot and also know very well. That's the most important thing. Like, you can have like 200 plugins, but if you don't really know them well, then they're not going to be worth all that much to you because you're never going to get out of them as what you would be able to get out of the plugins that you use if you had like, let's say 10 or 12 plugins that you use a lot and you know them inside out. So oh, I've never gotten like the subscription for Plugin Alliance. I always just bought like a couple of separate plugins. I do have a bunch of plugins from Plugin Alliance, mostly the unfiltered audio ones, which honestly, those are some plugins I do actually use. Like the unfiltered audio plugins are actually nice, and I actually tend to use them. Not all of them, because I have a bunch of them that I bought that I never use. I got unfiltered audio fault, never use it. Unfiltered audio indent, never use it. Instant delay, never use it. But the Sandman Pro delay, that one is just absolutely goated. Silo, a granular plugin, really nice. Spec Ops, well, don't have to talk about that because that one is just absolutely amazing. And in fact, the pack that I released on Patreon today with the atmospheres absolutely abuses Spec Ops, where I just use that to change sounds up and make it into something a lot more interesting than what it originally was. A lot of the atmosphere samples, you use that plugin on them. And then I have Triad from them. Again, never use it. I believe it's some kind of multiband distortion. Never use it. So even from them, I bought like a shitload of plugins that I never end up using. So the only plugin that I'm tempted to buy at the moment is that new Valhalla reverb plugin. But then again, I already have all of their other reverbs. So do I really need another reverb? It's more one of those things where it's a bit of FOMO, right? Where you just, it looks kind of cool. It's like a delay and a reverb built into one. But do I really need it if I have Valhalla? If I have the Valhalla delay and I have some of their reverbs already, if I just combine those two in a chain, do I not get a similar kind of thing, right? Black Roaster? Wasn't it Black Rooster? I think it was Black Rooster. Or maybe there's a company called Black Roaster as well, but I think it was Black Rooster plugins. Damn, I think I've used some of their plugins back in the day. I don't think I have them installed. Oh, actually I do. I've got the Canary, Cypress, TT15, and VHL 3C. Again, never used them. So, it's one of those other examples of a plugin that I almost never use, unless I'm just, sometimes I'll have one of those days where I'm just doing sound design, I'm just throwing shit at a wall. That might be a day where I go through my whole plugin folder and I'll just go like, let's just chuck this on for shits and giggles. Let's just try this, you know? And then I might use it, but most of the time I'll never end up using it. Dave roasting musician still black. I mean, I just have I don't use anything from Waves. I don't even have their plugins installed anymore. I just hate Waves' shitty marketing tactics and their way of doing things. Like, I'm sorry. Some of their plugins might be good, but they've done so many fucking shady things over the years when it comes to like sales and like. Then that whole wasn't it that whole thing with the subscription thing that they did at some point that also kind of rubbed me the wrong way. There's been too many things with Waves in general where I was like, I'm sorry. I'll just get rid of it all. Yeah, that's the main thing, right? I also can't delete the whole plugin folder because there might be projects where I am using one of those plugins, and then when I delete it, you know, I'll be stuck with a project that sounds like something that sounds different than what it actually was. But other than that, yeah. Like as well, like even in the synth department, right? Like I'll have Vital still installed, but I never use it. I have Current, Pigments, Serum, Face Blend, and then I've got Vital as well. I never use it, but it's still there. Just catching dust. Probably has like a gazillion updates now when I open it, but yeah. And that's also why I kind of stopped buying plugins. Like every once in a while I'll buy something, but it's very rarely that I'll buy a plugin. Cool. Thanks for today. We don't have any more tracks, so that's going to be the end of this feedback stream. Next week I'll be back. We'll be doing some production. But this was a good one. Don't get me wrong, I like some of the Waves plugins as well. Like H Delay, really good delay plugin. And there's a bunch of other ones that I did use a lot back in the day. But nowadays I'm just like, yeah, I'm sorry. I can't. It's just, yeah, they've done too many shady marketing things over the years, and I was like, I can't support a company like that, especially because I also think about it in a way where if I'm doing something on stream or on a tutorial video and I'm using one of their plugins, it actually it could lead to people wanting to buy it, right? So for me, that is always in the back of my mind. And then it makes it even harder for me to support a company like that. And that was also one of the reasons why I kind of stopped using it. Like, not that they're bad plugins, but it's just one of those things, you know? Like, I don't wanna support that. Anyways, guys, thanks. Join the Discord. Link to that will be in the chat. If you wanna support me on Patreon. You can grab the new Atmosphere sample pack on there. And I will have another sample pack coming soon. I'm working on a couple of more bass things that I've made over the last few months. I'll drop those in the pack. And then I think I might upload some drum samples after that. Because I've got so many drum samples that I could release. We'll have to see which ones I throw together. But thanks. Like I said, I'll be back next week, and for the outro, let's just play this track one more time. Or, yeah, let's just play this track one more time, why not? People in chat can bully your snare a little bit more. No, I'm kidding. You know it, it's all fun and games. Thanks, and see y'all in the next one. Peace.